I think that streams are rolling out, so we'll start letting the folks in. Admit everyone in the waiting room. Spotlight myself and my guest here today. And hello everyone. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We are doing a live stream today, as we do every Saturday, and we'll be introducing the program here momentarily. We'd just like to give people a minute to get settled in here in the Zoom room. Of course, if you're there out on Facebook or YouTube tuning in, if it's your first time, we'll let you know what's going on here, but we do want to let you know there's a chance that if you're enjoying what you're seeing here and you are just out on the socials, we'll put a link in the chat where you can actually jump into the private Zoom call and also just sort of get started getting to know what's going on and keeping up to date. We do these radio hours every Saturday. We would love to have you continue to join us each week. And I will now introduce the program so you can get on board and we can get rolling today. It's going to be a very exciting one. A repeat guest that we've had previously here, and we get a little bit of update. An iconoclastic figure in the music and creative world, in the piano industry especially. His name is David Klavins. He's a visionary piano builder known for transforming the art of piano design. For over 40 years, he has created groundbreaking pianos that push the boundaries of tradition. His most iconic works include the Model 370, the largest upright piano in the world, and the Una Corda, a minimalist piano loved by artists like Nils Frahm for its delicate, dreamlike sound. David's pianos combined classic craftsmanship with bold engineering, creating instruments that redefine how we experience music. His designs are not just pianos, they are immersive, inspiring experiences that captivate musicians and listeners alike. David, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you, Ethan, and hi everybody. And I'm very happy to join today again to discuss some of the aspects of my work, and also we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and definitely looking forward.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and I'll highlight that as well. This is a show at its roots for piano technicians. So we do want to say up front here, if you find that you have questions or you want to have a discussion or you want to dive deep on something, today in particular, we're completely open to that. We'll try to focus the conversation between David and I for maybe the first half hour or so of the program. But anytime along those lines there, you're welcome to put little comments in the chat. Oh, hey, I had something there that I want to bring up later, whatever it is. So feel free to be as participatory as you like today. That said, sometimes, we offer participation and people just kind of want to sit in the background and just enjoy. That's fine too. So we'll just kind of play it by ear at about halfway through. If there's something to engage on with the audience, great. And if not, we'll just continue our conversation one-on-one with David. So what I'd love to do is kind of dive in here and just talk about the roots here a little bit for anybody that's joining for the first time. Maybe they've never heard of you. What you did was several decades ago, you kind of went to your traditional clavier, Baumeister, piano building school of the European tradition. You got all those skills together. But once you finished, you said, this actually just got me thinking. I don't know if I can authentically continue with the simple craft of the piano tradition as it is, but you were very much inspired to create something unique. Can you just tell us about that turning point in your life and what was going on at that point, and how the catalyst happened to actually take the plunge into making your first iconoclastic piano?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, the beginnings actually of my own venture, own journey into doing something new were already during the apprenticeship at the Schimmel company in Braunschweig. Since I'm an analytically inclined person, and in particular, if I like a subject, then I deep dive into it as much as I can. So pretty soon in my apprenticeship, I understood that the piano is pretty much like already back then was pretty much like 100 years old invention. And I thought I'm generally inclined to looking out for progress in my own life, in every regard, actually. And I had learned already that innovation is the key word for progress, so to say. And any discussion with the Schimmel instructors failed to bear fruit. They said, Klavins, this is a waste of time. There's nothing to do. The piano is finished. It has been invented. It's a long time ago. You just need to learn how to treat it well, how to tune it, how to adjust the action, and all will be fine. That was enough for me. And on the other hand, when I had finished my apprenticeship, I knew very well that I knew way too little to do something on my own, and like piano building. I understood that I need to gain much more knowledge about all the aspects important to, in particular, to create sound. So what's the most influential factors of the piano? What are the interactions, interdependencies, etc., etc. So then I worked a few years as a piano tuner in Bonn, the city I'm born in Germany. And I found that the old pianos could be a very interesting subject to study. Old pianos means from the turn of the century, from the 19th to 20th century, as we know. That's approximately when the modern piano was altogether, gaining ground. And I found those 2 years of tuning, I found that the piano shops in Bonn, they're disregarding old pianos very much. They say, I know, no hassle, repairing pianos. So my own boss told me, if you meet a real good old piano, I know there are real good pianos out there, you feel free to take the action back home, do a little extra job on it. We're not really interested. So I very early on, I've found looking into the detail into the old pianos, let's call them simply old pianos, everything that was built from the onset of the 20th century. I found that there were very interesting designs, much more different than we have today. Among other, and I found that if I would focus restoration of old pianos, that would be an excellent field for me to experiment, to learn, to study, experiment, compare theory and practice, etc., etc. And that's what I did. In '76, I founded my first own company and invited the public to, if they have an old piano, I would be happy to restore it. And about 10 years, I studied on my own, you could say, self-education intensely, the scaling of piano strings, what you could change by means of materials, dimensions, etc. Every aspect of it, bridges, soundboards, double soundboards. There was a very interesting company, Rittmüller, which is now produced by Chinese manufacturers. They have gotten the name somehow, or they have taken it simply. Rittmüller had a double resonating soundboard. They called it a double soundboard simply. That's where I got this idea from, which I utilize in all of my pianos today. I have these double soundboards, just a different solution from what Rittmüller did back then. But anyway, so that 10 years of intense deep dive into all those different design aspects, etc., and doing a lot of experiments, I slowly but steadily came to the conclusion that, okay, first of all, let's go take on the concert grand piano. I was not satisfied. The more concert tunings I did, the more disappointed I was actually about the announcement. When I was in my apprenticeship, then my instructor said, the concert grand piano, that's the top of the mountain, that is the top of it all, and in particular the Steinway. So what most wonderful piano. When I had to tune these most wonderful pianos and ran into various situations where I found this is actually not the end of the road, can't be the best of the best sound, etc. In particular, my critique was with the bass register of the grand piano, which until this very day I say that's totally unacceptable. How dirty, I mean, by means of disharmonic those bass strings sound, how many
Sometimes
dissonant
we say muddy. That's a
muddy,
little bit more
muddy, and yeah,
politically correct.
and one thing which I found out very early in the game was that inharmonicity is actually a multi-dependent variable. It's not a constant, how we were taught at school, and you hear it clearly if you hit the, for example, you play the concert grand or any grand, any piano. The harder you play it, the more catastrophic the sound develops in the bass, in the lowest bass in particular. And if you play it really hard, it sounds right out ugly. I mean, right out weird. And my thesis was the piano, the concert piano, which if it's the top of the sound, it should be as clear and as beautiful a sound as possible in all registers at all the 88 keys. You can't help very much with the high ups there. I mean, with the C5 in European notation. That's just a ping. I mean, it's not a tone. It will never be a tone. And like my friend Wayne Stewart even adds an octave up there, and that's even more of a ping and just a knock with a little bit of a noise. But anyway, so I was inspired to do to establish an example about 10 years into my experience, and then that's when I started to build the 370 to find out whether I'm on the right path of thinking. And and from there, actually, things evolved, but not back then. It was much later because in '87 I finished this first vertical concert grand, as I call them. But there was no internet. There was no means of advertise your work somehow to spread the news, so to say. I tried a few years to record CDs with the 370, invited pianists who liked it, but didn't find enough distributors. And actually, altogether, in short, I was 25 years too early because exactly 25 years later, which was 2012, the first publishing of the first virtual piano based on my pianos, which was the Giant by Native Instruments, that was the game changer, actually.
I'm going to pause right there. On the website, so you said you had the 370, right?
Yep.
I'm going to do a screen. I'm going to do a screen share real quick. So I see under products you have 450, which this is centimeters basically, right? So it's telling you how tall the
Yeah.
piano is. Do you
Yeah.
have any images of the 370 on here
Yeah.
as
In
well?
the About section, if you go to the About tab,
Okay.
there you see and scroll down a little bit. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to, again, I know a lot of us have probably seen this here and there, but just to give some context here. So
Yeah.
this is kind of, is this literally the very first piano that you built at a large scale like this?
No, the very first actually was a traditional, like 114 centimeter motor that I
Okay.
developed for the South Korean company Daewoo. They had I had an agreement with them in the 80s, in the early 80s. That was my very first one. But
Okay.
my main, so to say, idea to deviate from the traditional piano and try out my own ideas, that in this regard, the 370 was the first one. Yeah.
That was. Okay, wonderful. All right, you can continue. I just want to give a little context, especially visually, so people would understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, and so the more I was thinking about my designs, and also in the break, let's say between '87 and 2011, 12, when my work actually picked up steam, I had thought a lot about different designs. In the meantime, also did some experiments, etc., etc. But couldn't really get on with this, with all the development until this very important event happened, that Nils Frahm came visiting to record his music on the 370. That was actually the breaking point, because that was also the occasion when, during the discussions with Nils, the Una Corda was actually, the building of the Una Corda was initiated. I had that idea also 20 years ago or much earlier, while I was doing the restoration of old pianos, because many people asked how the piano could be made sounding softer. It would sound beautiful, but way too loud, way too loud. And many people actually complained about the loudness. And so I developed that idea back then. Actually, you could make a nice small Una Corda piano sounding much softer, beautifully, etc., etc. But I had never built it. And when I presented this idea to Nils, then he got excited about it, and we discussed it quite at some length. And then he commissioned the first Una Corda. That was how it was created. And then actually from there it was step by step, and also mainly based on demands of pianists and ideas of sound, ideas of pianists, how then different various additional models were generated in the course of time, including the wooden one, which is the last innovation, I would say. Make a piano like 300 years ago, only with the difference that it keeps the tuning.
Hmm. Wonderful. Should we? I'll share that too, just so we can get some context on that, and we might talk about that a little bit more today, just because it is the most recent. So we could look at the. Actually, I went to this other page, so let's shift it to the EL. Yeah. So this piano, it's very. So it's almost the opposite of the spectrum. We've seen you're getting pianos even up to 450 centimeters. And then this one, how many centimeters tall? What are we talking about?
These small pianos, they are about in the size of general pianos, like the small one, 115 up
Yeah,
to 120 centimeters in
right.
height. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there you
because they're all straight strung, then the width is irregular.
go.
The the angle at the left side, that's to limit the soundboard, to have the soundboard shape like it is at this piano. Because to pull it, let's say if you look at the lower left end, imagine the piano would be straight up. That excess soundboard that would be there would be counterproductive. It would be simply add no meaning whatsoever. And so that's why the left side has this angle to give a certain shape to the soundboard. And then the very first Una Corda Extra Light, as I called them, was actually created in 21. Yeah, this one. And it was also created because of the demand of a pianist. A friend of mine, a pianist, Stefan Eicher is his name. He's in Geneva, Switzerland. He has a studio there, and he's a very distinct musician, also a singer, sings and plays the piano. And he was begging me, you could virtually say begging me, 21, says, David, you're the only one who can do it. Please make an even smaller, lighter piano than the Una Corda. He had the classic Una Corda, or the version of the first Una Corda he already had in his studio. But he wanted to have it even lighter, to be able to walk out on the fields, to go, travel to all kinds of landscapes and play music to his friends and forget about the COVID catastrophe, so to say. That was his wish. And so I thought about it, gave it an intense thought, and then came up with this version of wood. To do the entire construction of wood, except that the hitchpin panel is steel, which as such is anchored, very closely anchored to the entire construction of the piano. And it has, if you look at the upper left, yeah, that's the hitchpin panel. And if you look at the upper left corner of the piano, then you will notice this little white spot. Yeah, that's a metal part that holds a tension bar. That's actually the upper end of a tension bar that goes down to the middle, to the back post in the center of the piano, at the back of the piano, which is needed to stabilize the piano by means of its vertical shape. If you hadn't this tension bar, then after pulling the strings on pitch, you would have the left corner bending forward somewhat. And in order to counteract that, then we have this tension bar there at the upper corner. Yeah, this interestingly is after we had built the first one, the 52 key. I was pretty much surprised how about the juicy, full, and powerful sound of the piano. It was I didn't expect it being that much different from the classic Una Corda. And then I realized that that's actually because simply the wooden structure, which is oak wood, the outer parts, the sides and the top and the bottom are oak, that all these parts actually get together and finally act as a sounding object. Not just the soundboard emanates the sound, but the wood contributes significantly. The entire structure contributes to the sound. And so that's also the main difference between the wood version and the metal, that the wooden version has a much richer sound, though still una corda and still typical this kind of distinct sound character, but at the same time more juicy, let's say, more full sound, also in particular in the bass. So, and the entire structure lives of the fact that we have glues today, which are as strong as, let's say, if you weld metal together, it becomes kind of a monolithic part. The same happens if you take the right kind of glue. You glue wood where nothing can ever crack, nothing can ever get out of the glue, etc., etc. And the entire structure of the wooden piano is so that each part stabilizes the other parts. So each part has a static function, so to say. Nearly every part, including the soundboard.
Sorry, I'm muted there. Yeah, I'm curious as well. Yeah, it's really cool to see this in development. You said you have the 64 keys, have the 52 key. You're working on maybe an 88 key, which you haven't created yet in manifestation, but you have some ideas on pulling that out there. Um, I- I'm curious about the design process. Do you have like a methodology when you think about how do I design something? You know, when I've looked into design, I've run into, you know, like a 10-step design process or, you know, starting with the specifications, you know, it needs to do this and this and this and this, and then we're going back down to the first principles of why do I want that? Why do I want that? Why do I want that? You know? Um, do you utilize any sort of formalized process, or is it a little bit more intuitive on your part when you go into designing these things?
It's half and half, I would say. A lot of it is based on, of course, on my knowledge about the traditional piano, about all the static elements that the forces that are applied on a piano by means of the string tension, etc., etc. But for example, when I had to come up with a new idea for the uh, as Stefan asked for a lighter piano. So the first thought was, okay, I have to get rid of the steel. That's the single most heavy part, like the cast iron frame also is the single most heavy part at any traditional piano. So I understood, okay, I have to come up with something totally new. So, okay, so what could it be? It must be something very solid. So the strength wise, the hardwood was the closest idea. And so I step by step, actually, and there at that part, there was a lot of intuition. I was thinking, okay, what will happen if I don't have the steel frame? So the pin block will be hardly pulled down in the center and to the front. So how I stabilize the soundboard, the pin block, by having the top, a very solid top that is connected to the pin block the way that it acts like a stabilizer, that there cannot be any kind of move with the in the pin block. What happens? The strings pull the pin block down. So I need to rest it, and that's happened. That's actually within the construction. I need to rest it on an extremely solid back post in the center. The sides, left and right, they also act as back posts, if you want, as a stable, as a static structure. But the biggest power, of course, is in the center of the pin block. So that rests on the back post. There's a cutout at the back post where the pin block rests on. So there's absolutely no way that the pin block could give in. And that back post is I think I don't have pictures on the internet of the back side of the piano, but maybe I find one and can shoot it up to you.
Mm-hmm.
That would maybe be interesting.
To see the structural elements.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I should have some here in my photo. So that would be, yeah, I found one. So I send an email to you,
That's fine.
Ethan, and put it there as a the
In the meantime, I'll also mention to folks that if you did want to participate in the conversation, if anybody has any questions, now's a good time to kind of start warming up with those. Any topics do you want to move on to? I'm particularly interested. I'm probably gonna, in the absence of too much else, dive a little bit deeper into design processes because that's interesting to me. But if other people are interested in the actual piano mechanics parts, maintenance, understanding the theory behind these things, feel free to jump in and share what you think is interesting to discuss. Did you get that sent over?
The email, you should have it in your.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll check that out. And then actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, so I see this email. I'll bring up the photo here momentarily. What is the prototyping process like? Like for example, in creating I guess the first Una Corda, because that was, the EL is going to have, I guess it was relatively unique because it had the wood. Basically, when you have a new product that you're introducing, how many times do you have to create a thing that you actually know is not the final version, but you have to put in time into making it, Because I could imagine, maybe it'd take us several months just to make a prototype of one of these things, and then but that's not even the final thing, and then you have to, how many more prototypes? What's that process like versus understanding what you're going to make versus having to actually physically make it and see how it responds and then remake it and so on and so forth?
Actually, the smallest part is the theory. For example, I never draw out my piano designs until the last line on paper, or in the early days on paper, later in the computer. So I made technical drawings to understand the boundaries, to understand the interfaces, to all the crucial aspects that needed to be clear, like where holes needed to be drilled, etc., such things. But I never finished it like in every little detail. For example, drawing the action or something. I just needed a model of of course, of the dimensions to understand. Here's the striking point. That's the size of the action. That's where the keyboard, where it sits on the keyboard, etc., etc. But then I went to work, and for me, the main emphasis was on the practical side. And for example, with the first Una Corda, which we now call the classic Una Corda with the steel frame, I needed to redo it once. The first attempt was without the tension bar in the back, and so that prototype is still played and in existence. It sounds wonderful. It's in Hungary. I left it with my friends in Hungary because they were musicians who loved it so much that they wanted to work on it. And I said, okay, guys, I go to Latvia, but to comfort you a little bit of my absence, so keep the Una Corda. And so that was one. It's actually warped. Like the left upper corner goes about 18 millimeters to the front if you compare it to the total straight plane.
Yeah.
the vertical plane, and it doesn't hurt the sound, and also not really the action. And that was so we had to invent the tension bar with the steel builder who was working on the stainless steel frame. Uh, we both discussed the situation, then knowing how the tensions work and pulling power of the strings. I said, yeah, if we stabilize the upper corner, then we have solved the problem. And then we figured, okay, we can do it that and that way. So that was, and then the second one was actually fine in this regard. Then you could say the refining of the visuals happened in the course of the time. My attempt in the beginning, or my principle, as I think you know, is to build functionally, absolutely functional, pretty much disregarding the design, the visual design, by means of, uh, let's say, I would never sacrifice the functional point because of the design.
Mm.
So, and then what it is. But then my team in Latvia, in particular, they complain, no, you can this naked keyboard without the board in the front or in the sides. That doesn't really look nice. Come on, let's do these wooden bars at the sides and the front and the center of the keyboard. And so such things evolved, you could say, with my team working while we were working on the pianos. They didn't change anything functionally, but made the piano. I would also agree that it looks nicer now than the
Mm.
first. So
Okay.
that's so far.
Let me I'll do a screen share on that image here. Let me bring that up at the back of the piano. Open that up, make it big, and then share it. Share screen. All right, there we go. So yeah, this is an image of the backside of the piano. So basically this is looking at the piano as though we are going to play it, right? The keyboard's not in. This is actually it's the backside, but it's the front
This
of the
is the
backside. Yeah.
backside. Yeah, yeah. This is the backside, and you see this center post. That's the only only center post. That's the only back post in the piano. While, as I said before, and you see it also clearly that the soundboard rim is tightly connected with the sides of the piano. So all those the left and right structure works as yeah, as kind of as back posts, or as supporters, supporting
Mm-hmm.
elements of the string pulling power that works, of course, pure mainly vertical. And this back post is of laminated pine, so it is a very, very solid. It's I think it's 120 millimeters square. And you can see that little detail how the pin block rests on a cutout of the back post, but it is the fact that the back post is cut in from the top, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's yeah, the cutout where the pin block rests on the vertically in the vertical direction, rests on the back post, on part of the back post. So and that altogether, this builds such a stiff construction that nothing ever can move. At this picture, you don't see the tension bar, but you can imagine it as coming from the top to
Mm-hmm.
the low to the bottom of the no, from the other corner, the yeah, from there
Mm-hmm.
to the back post, and it's also fixed at the back post, at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of the back post. So it's like a diagonal. It's like if you look at the cut off of the soundboard at the left side, then if you imagine that we want to shape a V, then that yeah, like that, and that, yeah, exactly, and that tension bar actually forms a V
Mm-hmm.
direction it goes. Yeah. And so because I knew from the onset that I will need this tension bar with the wooden structure as well, so we didn't even attempt to build one without the tension bar. It was an element that was included from the beginning.
Great. So so like you said, there's a bit of prototyping, but not it doesn't you don't have to make a lot of prototypes, or you haven't had to. You sort of make one or two and you're pretty close, and then you work out the details,
Yeah.
and then at some point, mostly you're doing form follows function completely, except when the function is other people going, well, I would like, maybe it should look a little, then it becomes functional. What are people saying? Let's try to fulfill their aesthetic request, as opposed to you determining the sort of aesthetics of it. Yeah, based on some other principles. Yeah, it's fascinating. Do and this is, I mean, clearly you've evolved from the 370 and the taller pianos, and now you're working on these the smaller pianos, the Una Cordas. Is there anything else up there like totally different? Like, or like, is there other instrument, or like another, or is it just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like this
yeah.
evolution, or
There's the one of the next things would be Una Corda grand piano for the all the fans of the grand piano action, which I totally absolutely agree. The grand piano action is of course a life on its own and different from the
Mhm.
vertical. And though our vertical actions are the fastest ever, which in part is supported by the fact that we have straight keys. So we have no
Mhm.
angling keys because of the straight stringing. Also, the keys are straight, and that contributes a lot to the speed of the action. But anyway, grand piano action is grand piano action, and of course, pianists. There's a lot of pianists who simply prefer the grand piano action. And at the same time, all the pianists who have visited us love the sound of the M189, which is I call the concert Una Corda. So on one of my next projects is to build the 189 as a grand piano. It will look totally different from the. I think, yeah. But at the about time, I even have a sketch. I think you can pull it up.
Mhm.
Pull up my
I'll pull it up.
website, and then at the no projects, not about, but projects. There's a projects tab,
Okay.
and there you see a rough sketch of the um, of the grand piano. Yeah, yeah, that was it.
This it here.
No, 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 no. There was.
Oh yes. Oh, the 408 here.
There's also another project of the future, which maybe I don't know if it ever happens. But if you
Okay.
scroll up a little bit, yeah,
Okay.
this will be, this roughly shows the design, the shape of the Una Corda
Hmm.
grand piano.
Hmm.
So this is a different size as in the end it will be, but it gives you the idea.
Hmm.
Because my one of my findings studying the soundboard is that actually the most ideal soundboard would be absolutely rectangle shaped, nothing of curves, nothing of this grand piano design.
Hmm.
And since I follow strictly these functional principles, then also I cannot I oppose to invent any curving with the soundboard with the concert on a Corda grand version.
And the stringing is a straight strung.
Yeah, yeah. You see the strings, the field of the yeah. Actually, the sounding length of the strings
Mhm.
is in this picture. It's visible. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Without the extra lengths to the pins and to the hitch pins.
And the size of the soundboard, it seems comparatively larger compared
Yeah,
to the string
that's also
size. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a rough indication. For example, it's very likely that it won't be the final shape, but as
Hmm.
well, the final shape may come very close. While the broken red line that you see
Hmm.
in the picture is actually the string depicts the string scale, not the actual strings that you see there. They
Oh,
will be
okay.
extended. So if you look at the center line, that's broken red line, that
Hmm.
will actually be the bridge
Okay.
at that position. So it's pretty much in the center of that rectangle,
Okay.
on the top of the let's say center soundboard.
Okay.
And that will be. I have not yet decided if I build this piano or if I attempt to build it from the onset as a wooden structure, or which I am very much tempted to do, or if I implement a steel frame there. I'm not sure about that, but I think I would love to do it of wood. Let's see, but once I get to it, then I will finally decide on this subject. And so far, because of the many years of experience, I actually trust pretty much that I get things right from the onset. As you said, little things to be adjusted or improved later, but the general line typically works out fine. It worked out fine so far. Also with the
Let,
450s, yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the distribution of your pianos. I know we've worked together a little bit. You know, you'll have somebody, oh, I got somebody that got a piano, needs to ship to California. Let's, you know, help them get this thing, right? Um, how are you? I suppose there's sort of like a buzz that gets around about what you're doing, and that seems like part of what happens. People just call you up and they say, "Hey, I like this. Like, let me get one." Um, and I don't see you having, besides kind of just putting the word out there, having like a huge sort of sales factor, you know, like a sales process going on where you're trying to find new clients, or how does this, you know, how do people find you, and how is this evolving? Because clearly it's evolving more, like you said, with the advent of the internet, and people just hear about it and they want to participate. But how does that
Exactly.
all come together, the distribution?
Yeah, so far in the past, you could say largely, I would say the main advertisement for our pianos was the Native Instruments, Virtual, Una Corda, and also the Giant. And then every report, every comment out there, let's say musicians work with our instruments, or even with the virtual Una Corda, uh, that word gets around or got around pretty nicely among professional pianists and composers, and that contributed to a kind of a regular flow of orders until the end of 23. And in the beginning of 24, the first half year was, I can openly admit, totally dead. No order coming in. I scratching my head and say, something needs to be done here. This is not good. Not good at all. Nothing had actually changed except that the Russian war, or not Russian, but you know, the Ukraine-Russian
Right.
war is maybe making makes some people feel uncomfortable. David sitting next to Moscow, who knows? Putin comes and grabs the pianos before they can send them to me. I don't know if somebody really would think this way. Anyway, the first half year was dead. Then again, we got nice orders coming in. But I understood that we need to do marketing much, much, much more in regards of marketing, because the private sector worldwide actually doesn't know anything about us.
Right.
And so that was why I decided, okay, if we do something, then we need to go, for example, on the exhibitions. So nearest exhibition was Music China in October, from October 10 to 13. So we went to Music China, sent one of our the extra light versions there. I invited Lubomir Melnik because he has a very unique way of demonstrating the piano sound with his continuous music. And I was so happy that I had Lubomir Melnik, because the overall level of background noise in the piano hall, you can imagine, large piano hall, everybody playing piano at once. Only Lubomir with his continuous music could
Cut through it.
overpower the background noise. Yeah, that was fantastic. And yeah, so this was the first step in my strategy to do much more about marketing. Also, I'm intending to go to the Piano Technicians Guild, how they call it,
The convention?
the convention. Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, okay.
That's next year. That's included in my plan to do much more about advertisement. Yeah, and
Okay.
then think about some spectacular activities. So also like concerts in very central public places. and the like. Yeah, see
Okay.
where it goes. But I'm confident that we will expand rather than the other way around, because the interest altogether has only increased over time.
Mhm.
And people are extremely happy when they come visiting us, see the instruments and play them, and so everybody's always like excited, pretty much. So I'm optimistic about the future and see where it goes.
Let's take a look at, I think we found, so this is your Instagram,
Yeah.
and I know we had found this. There's a video here of Ubamir playing. You said there is background noise. Let's check out this video though. Let's see how it comes out. Holy cow. Yeah, that is loud.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
since I had a little booth, it was 9 square meters. That was the only lucky, or one of the lucky points was there was no pianos across our aisle where we
Uh-huh.
were, across the aisle where our booth was, and because it was small, as soon as you stepped inside the booth,
Yeah.
everything was pretty fine. Then you could hear
Oh.
the piano really, the essence of the piano sound pretty well.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so that was good. That was good.
We found some. So there's some other focused videos, probably of people playing the music. Now this one looks like it's Una Corda. This is a short film. Have you seen this before? Do you know if there's a good spot to check on it at?
Yeah, this Peter Sandberg. That's when he. I think this movie is when he came visiting. Um, uh,
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
when he came visiting our company in Hungary, then he made this little short film, yeah, about the him playing the Una Corda.
All right. It looks like it's only about a minute long. Let's check this out, actually.
The most special about the Una Corda is the fact that it has only one string per note, so it has a much cleaner sound per note. It can never be out of
This is the
tune.
prototype that he's playing there.
Okay.
Plus a different design of the soundboard, which creates a much softer and warmer sound than a typical piano soundboard that's much thicker and stiffer, so to say. The soundboard of the Una Corda is more flexible and thus better responding to those single strings of the notes.
Yeah, and that was the Una Corda. That's not the E. That's the not the light version
No, that was,
because.
yeah, that was the first prototype that he played in this little short movie. This is also the same prototype that's played by a Turkish pianist.
Let's check this out. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, there's something about the tone of it too that, at least from the clips that we're seeing here, feels like it's almost reaching back into a different era of piano history. I don't know if you
Yeah,
get.
right.
Uh,
It's much closer to the, let's say, the first pianos. They were all also Una Corda pianos, actually, in the very beginning. And the
mhm.
wooden structure, the wooden piano is, of course, the most close to those original pianos that were built in the beginning of the 18th century. They were pure wood in the beginning. Then they slowly invented the metal parts, and that, as we know. Anyway, so that's the specifics of this sound, or the special different sound is the biggest motive for our clients to order the piano, because they love this kind of delicacy and distinction that this the Una Corda sound offers.
Got a comment here in the chat. I'll read that. Johan Krebs says, I love hearing you talk about piano design and how you make deviations from the traditional design work. Have you thought of what can be done easily to existing designs to make improvements in sound other than rescaling? For example, if there is something one can do structurally.
Yes, I've thought about it, and but rescaling. I mean, what we can't change at the given piano, of course, is the length of the string. But rescaling makes a lot of sense if we change the diameters and materials. And I don't know how many of you, but I guess you know about the different materials that, different steel categories that, for example, Stephen Paolello offers, and which are actually made, manufactured by a company in Germany. And by utilizing those different categories of steel, you can improve significantly. I would merely say any existing piano, and that's one thing. The other thing is that in part also the soundboard. Some manipulations at the soundboard could also add to the improve the sound. In particular, where the soundboard is too thick, which I found in the course of my my studies of the various piano designs, that it's not favorable. In particular, if you have a baby grand or a small piano, then in comparison, the soundboard, in my opinion, is too massive, which contributes to a very harsh or hard sound character. So that can be improved by thinning it out to a certain degree and at certain areas, I would say. So it would be interesting to experiment on that. Of course, I don't have a fixed recipe where I could say, okay, you need to do that in this area. But I have a good feeling for how I would do it if I have a piano in front of me, and I should improve that piano as much as possible.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Well, we're getting close to the end of the hour here, so we'll wrap up soon. If there's any more just quick last-minute questions, feel free to jump in the chat, mention them. If you want to just take a short thing, you're welcome to even come on camera or audio and say something. But otherwise, we'll start wrapping up here pretty soon.
And also, I would like to add, if maybe some of you would get some ideas or questions would pop up later after we have finished the radio hour, feel free to email me. I'm always happy to have a dialogue by email. Just be patient, please, because sometimes I can't answer fast. But I do what I can, so to say. So feel free to get in touch if you've got some questions or suggestions or ideas, whatever. I am totally open for collaboration of all kind.
All right, and I put that email in the chat here, david@klavins-pianos.com. We have a little comment in here from Ernest Unrau. Tell us more about the bridge construction. Have you implemented any special measures to prevent or eliminate false beats? And are you using bridge agraphs?
No, I don't use bridge agraphs, and I'm opposed to bridge agraphs since I experimented a lot on bridge agraphs while I was in Hungary. It was a kind of a lucky situation that the Bogani piano on which I was working in Hungary, they had decided to use bridge agraphs. I had developed my own bridge agraph, which in theory should work. In theory, it seems that a bridge agraph that forces the strings to vibrate actually two-dimensional instead of three-dimensional, that should, in theory, enhance the intensity of sound. But practically, it creates a lot of false beats. I don't know how it's about Wayne Stewart's pianos. I've never met one in life because he also uses bridge agraphs. But we had the same type of agraph, including also we made a test with my invention, in Hungary, and both had one mysterious effect. And that mysterious effect, that was the main reason why I wouldn't use them, was that when exactly tuned on pitch, there were about 5 or 6 notes in the middle range and the lower treble that would die off like instantly, like instantly, like you hit the note and it dies off instantly. And as you listen to each single string, it was fine. It had a nice sustain, everything was good. And if you invented a slight deviation in the tuning, it was also quite okay. I mean, typical people wouldn't have said that, typical listeners wouldn't have noticed it as an out of tune piano. But as soon as you had the strings exactly on pitch, tone was dead. And I was discussing this phenomena with an acoustic expert in Germany, and he said there must be a kind of a phase change happening, but why it happens and why only at 5 or 6 notes and not always the same, because the Bogani crew, they built like 10 pianos, and this effect was at every piano, but not the same notes at each piano. So until this very day, I have no idea where it came from, but that's why I refrain from using bridgeographs at this point in time. If something, if this problem could be solved somehow, that would maybe be interesting. But Ernest was also asking about the special measures to prevent and eliminate false beats. See, my impression is that false beats come essentially from precision-related aspects. So when the cutoffs, for example, it's highly important at the bridge. When you have do the cutoffs, that they are 100% precise. I mean 100%. I mean 100%, not 99%. That's one thing. And the other thing is the false beats are generated often because the bridge pins have got a little bit loose. They are also generated because popping up because steel the specific string may have a material problem. For example, when I had such strings and I tried everything, like ironing the string, like stretching it, like doing still not solved the problem. Changing the material, simply changing the string solved the problem. So I think there can be very little quality problems with the string and it would instantly create false beats. And if that's slight little bit, then you could maybe live with it. But if it's too much, then of course not.
Thank you. A couple more comments are rolling in, so we'll get through those. Johan said, Lubomir Melnik was shown playing earlier, a wonderful person and composer. His continuous music is worth playing. One gets a different sense of harmony as the right pedal is held down continuously. And then Ernest follows up on his comment about the bridge, his question. Perhaps the tonal decay issue was due to a soundboard impedance issue.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that was also my final conclusion after discussing this aspect with also with Stephen Paolello in France. He had also the same theory that that's the reason why it happens. So that raises, of course, the question how could it be avoided, or how could it be, how we could counteract this effect. And one of my ideas was that we at the Bogani pianos we had carbon fiber soundboards, not wooden soundboards, carbon fiber soundboards that even more contributed to, in my opinion, to this tonal phenomenon.
Rapid decay. Yeah. Okay, interesting stuff. Well, sounds like we're just getting warmed up with the discussion here. It's probably about time to roll out. But that's great. I'm glad people got a chance to jump in and share your thoughts and questions. And we'll have to talk to you again soon. Look forward to seeing you at the PTG convention, David, and continue to engage with you. Just before we roll out here, of course, any last words? Where do you want to send people to find out more? Any calls to action that you want to give to people?
Yeah, I would be. I would appreciate if people would team up in America, in particular, and form a branch of Una Corda production by investing also the necessary money. It's not that much that needs to be invested, but I don't have the capacity at the moment to invest. But I would gladly help to set up something like that. And I think that Ethan, we had discussed this already, or had
Hmm.
the idea before. We never followed up on that in
Hmm.
sufficient. But that's one thing that I'm really interested in. So if there would be some enthusiasts in the States who would say, let's do a branch of Una Corda piano production in the USA, I would highly appreciate and support it as much as I can in every regard.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, we talked about what if we just started with trying to build one Una Corda EL in New York or something, and just kind of pull together the resources. And gosh, I don't know. I mean, if we put our minds to it, you might even be able to get some grants. Maybe there's some Latvian, American consulate that thinks that's a cool idea or something, and they want
Yeah,
to
that
throw
could
some
be
money
the
at it or
case.
something,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. If there's anybody else that's excited about it, we could try to work a little bit harder to make it happen. Um, I'll do our outro now, and we'll roll out from the program. It's been a pleasure. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. I'm also
Yeah.
thanks to everyone who participated, and yeah, let's stay in touch and continue the good work.
Excellent. Well, we've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks, David, and our audience today for your contributions to the program. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting-edge instruction for piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient by subscribing to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just 16 bucks a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget to check out the podcast at pianotechradio.com. We've been releasing more and more episodes lately, so that's a lot of fun. Listen in the shop, in the car, while you're doing dishes, working out, whatever. Check out our blog, pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com, and visit our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, to keep up to date on everything that's going on. All right, everyone, we'll see you